Zara pulled at the locked door again, her hands shaking. "It won't open," she said, her voice breaking. "Ayaan, this door was opened before. It wasn't like this." Ayaan stood frozen in the middle of the shop, staring at the watch in his palm. The ticking sounded louder now, heavier, as if it were counting down something important. "Zara," the voice said 10 minutes, he whispered, his eyes wide. What if time starts again when it finishes?" Zara rushed to him and grabbed his wrist, her knuckles white. "Then why didn't it start already?" she asked, her voice tight with panic. "We turned it once, right? Or did you touch it again?" Ayaan shook his head quickly, defensively. "No, I swear. I didn't do anything, it's just ticking on its own." Zara closed her eyes for a second, forcing a deep, steadying breath into her lungs. "Okay," she said, her voice more controlled now, layered with a desperate calm. "We don't panic, we think. If time has stopped, then maybe we're the only ones who can move." She moved slowly to the shop window and pushed against the glass again. Outside, the street was completely silent, a perfect, unnerving tableau. A man was frozen mid-step, one foot hovering just above the pavement. A bicycle leaned sideways, suspended in the instant before its fall. "This is real," Zara whispered, the words barely audible. "Time has actually stopped." Ayaan stepped closer to the window, a flicker of excitement creeping into the edges of his fear. "Zara," he said softly, a new idea dawning in his eyes. "We can go anywhere. No school, no scolding, no rules." Her head snapped toward him, her expression sharp. "This isn't a game, Ayaan," she warned, her voice low and firm. "Did you forget what the old man said?" "He said it was dangerous." Ayaan looked down at the floor, kicking at an imaginary stone. "He disappeared," he muttered. "Maybe he tricked us." Suddenly, the watch in his hand grew intensely warm. Ayaan yelped and dropped it as if it were a hot coal. "It's burning," he said, shaking his fingers. Zara quickly scooped it up, wrapping it in the sleeve of her long kurta. The ticking sped up for a frantic moment, a rapid-fire pulse, and slowed back to its steady, ominous rhythm. "It's reacting to us," she said, her gaze fixed on the device. "Like it knows we're scared." Ayaan swallowed hard, the earlier excitement completely gone. What if it never lets time move again?" A knot of ice formed in Zara's chest. "Then Amy will be frozen forever," she said quietly, her voice trembling. "Abu too, everyone." His eyes filled with tears, spilling silently down his cheeks. "I didn't mean to," he choked out. "I just wanted to see if it was real." Zara knelt in front of him, her own fear pushed aside by a surge of protectiveness. "I know," she said gently, her hand on his shoulder. "But now we have to fix this. Together." They stepped out of the shop and into the strange, silent world. The air felt thick, heavy, as if the entire world were holding its breath, waiting. Zara instinctively waved her hand in front of a frozen sparrow perched on a wire, then pulled it back with a gasp. "Don't touch anything," she said, her voice urgent. "We don't know what will happen when time starts again." Ayaan nodded, his eyes darting around nervously. Then he stopped and pointed, his finger trembling. "Zara, look." Across the street, a car was stopped, its bumper mere inches from a little girl who had chased a ball into the road. The girl's eyes were wide, her face a mask of pure terror, frozen in the last moment before impact. Zara's heart pounded against her ribs, a frantic drumbeat in the suffocating silence. "If time restarts like this," she whispered, the horror of it dawning on her, "she'd be hit." Ayaan looked from the girl to the watch in Zara's hand. "Then we have to move her," he said, his voice surprisingly firm. Zara hesitated, a new wave of fear washing over her. "The voice didn't say we could change things," she argued, her mind racing. "What if we're not supposed to?" Ayaan's voice shook, but his resolve didn't waver. "But if we don't, she die." Zara clenched her jaw, the impossible choice hanging in the air. Slowly she gave a single decisive nod. "Okay," she said. Carefully, they sprinted across the empty road. Zara gently took the little girl by the shoulders and pulled her back onto the safety of the footpath, making sure her feet were planted firmly on the ground. At the same time, Ayaan grabbed the runaway bicycle and pushed it away from the road, leaning it against a wall. The instant they stepped back, the watch vibrated in Zara's sleeve, a low, powerful hum. A deep, unseen voice echoed through the silence, softer than before, but carrying a weight that seemed to press down on them.
"First change," it said.
Ayaan spun around, his eyes wide with panic. "What does that mean?" he asked, his voice a frantic whisper. The ticking grew louder, more insistent, filling the space around them. "Zara," Ayaan said suddenly, a new terror in his voice, "how much time has passed?" She unwrapped the watch from her sleeve and glanced at its face. The color drained from her cheeks. 8 minutes, she said, her own voice barely a breath. "Only 2 left." Ayaan's breathing quickened into shallow pants. "What happens at 0? Zara shook her head, her eyes locked with his. "I don't know." They ran, a desperate scramble back toward their house. The familiar streets felt alien, stretching on endlessly, silent and long. Zara felt a prickling on the back of her neck, an unshakable feeling that the world itself was watching them, judging them. 1 minute, the voice whispered, seeming to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. Ayaan stumbled, his legs giving out for a second. "Zara, I'm scared," he cried. "So am I," she replied, gripping his hand tighter, pulling him along. The watch gave one final, sharp tick that cut through the silence like a gunshot. And then everything exploded into sound. Cars honked, their engines roaring to life. People shouted and laughed. The frozen sparrow flapped its wings and darted away into the sky. The world snapped violently back into motion. Zara and Ayaan fell to their knees on the pavement, gasping for air as if they had been underwater. Across the street, the little girl stood safely on the footpath, looking confused as the car that had almost hit her sped past without a second glance. Ayaan let out a shaky, relieved laugh. "We did it," he said, his face bright with triumph. "We saved her." Zara pushed herself slowly to her feet, her body trembling. "Yes," she said, her gaze distant. "But did you hear the voice?" Ayaan's smile faded. "First change," he repeated, the words sounding sinister now. Zara looked down at the watch in her hand. A thin spiderweb crack had appeared on the glass, running from the center to the edge, and inside the ticking sounded different. It was still a tick, but now it was accompanied by a faint, rhythmic scratching, like something was scraping away at the gears from within.